Welcome to Cinematic Recaps. This movie is called Boss Level. The movie is about a former Special Forces agent who is trapped in a time loop that constantly repeats the day of his murder. He must unlock the mystery behind his untimely demise. He is clueless why his worst nightmare day keeps repeating in a seemingly endless time loop. Slowly he works out how to get further each day. Sit back and enjoy to see what happens. The movie begins on May 9th in the former Delta Force Captain Roy Pulver's apartment. He awakens in bed next to Alice, who screams and runs away as Roy is attacked by a man wielding a machete. In a practiced manner, Roy acts out the entire scenario, dodging the hitman's precise motions to defend himself and grumbling that it has grown tiresome. When the first assassin is mistaken for Roy, a second assassin in a helicopter that flies up outside fires a machine gun, killing the first assassin. Roy merely slumps into the couch and stares at a picture of his ex, Gemma Wells, as the second one discharges wildly into the flat. After the helicopter smashes through the window, Roy jumps onto a truck of sand, which he says he missed 22 times before nailing it, then carjacks a man and avoids two more assassins, Pam and Esmeralda, who are both in the room. Roy swerves towards an approaching vehicle while driving carelessly, crashes into it, and then dies after flying through the window. Roy goes on to explain through narration that because he has to repeatedly live the same day, he has already died 140 times. No matter how many assassins he avoids, others keep appearing, which is the issue. The Fifth Swordswoman, Guanine, invariably identifies herself and admits to beheading Roy. "I am Guanine, and Guanine has done this," in addition to the first four. A dwarf who uses explosives to pursue Roy has earned the moniker Kaboom. There is also a fellow he calls Roy 2 and a man by the name of Smiley who drags him through the streets while impaling him with a harpoon. Roy had tried to reach Gemma at her workplace during Attempt 48, but her employer, Colonel Clive Venter, answered the phone. Roy is aware that Gemma was killed, but he tells him she died in an accident. Then, two men he refers to as the German twins shoot at him and blast him up. After a failed effort in which he blows Pam and Esmeralda to death in a warehouse, he visits a diner and asks Jake, his friend the bartender, for 2 huge bottles of Baijiu. Additionally, Roy is forced to listen to Dave, another customer, drone on and on about pointless anecdotes, which makes Roy lose all inhibitions and say something stupid while inebriated. He also observes Dai Feng, a woman who consistently enters at the same time. Roy adds that the assassins always manage to find him, and he has never survived past 12:47 p.m. Roy thinks back on May 8th, which seems like a long time ago. He paid Gemma a visit at her place of employment, Dino, where she mentioned his absence to their son Joe, who doesn't even know Roy is his father and only sees him as a friend of Gemma's. She is developing a gigantic device that can manipulate space and time but, if misused, has the potential to end the planet. After the two watched Roy and Gemma through surveillance, Venter's goon Brett emerges. Venter remarks that someone like Roy could figure out what they are preparing as Brett accepts Roy's resume. Gemma reminds Roy to keep Osiris in mind before he departs. After talking to his other bartender friend Gabrielle, Roy visits the bar where he runs into Alice. He receives a call from Gemma while Alice is using the restroom, informing him that she might need to take serious measures. When Roy examines a present that Gemma sent a few days prior to the 9th, a book titled The Mythology of Iset and Osiris, he is reminded of Osiris. Gemma tells Roy in it to live life to the fullest and to remember that time waits for no man. Attempt 143, Roy follows Joe to an underground arcade after spotting him previously taking something from another child. Joe is there. When Roy confronts him, Joe explains that he skipped class to attend a video game tournament and that he was only trading cards with the other boy. While spending time with Joe, Roy is saddened to have to break the news that Gemma has passed away. Roy observes that it is now 12:50 when they leave the arcade, indicating that he has survived longer than before. Sadly, the more assassins show there to murder him, but he protects Joe from their gunshots. He informs Joe that he is his father as he passes away and adds that he wished that was the last death. Roy is aware that he is being followed because they were previously unable to find him underground. He tries to remove the tracker from his anus at the restaurant until Dave suggests that it might be in one of his teeth. Just before he is slain, Roy pulls out two before locating the appropriate one. He avoids the first few hitmen after learning which tooth to extract and then loses the tracker. He confronts Alice after being resurrected because he recalls her being present when he was drugged at the bar. She informs him that Brett was the one who put the tracker in. He pulls out the tooth and uses it to entice Pam to a remote location where he shoots her with her own rifle. He also lures Smiley, then uses his own harpoon and truck to murder him. Roy begins to pursue the other killers, such as Roy 2 and the twins, but he then turns his attention to Venter and Brett. He is killed by Brett and Dino security the first few times, but he keeps getting closer until he confronts Guanine, who always decapitates him while dodging shots with ease. Venter explains to him that Gemma's device is known as the Osiris Spindle, and that he intends to use it to reverse horrific historical occurrences while ultimately establishing himself as a global autocrat. Roy gets assistance from Daifeng after resetting, who teaches him how to use a sword. As a result, he advances and defeats Guanine in a duel. After killing Brett, he turns to pursue Venter, but Venter stops him and asks who is guarding Joe. When Roy arrives at the arcade, he discovers that Joe has already died. Roy tries to get there quickly, but the Osiris Spindle detonates and wipes off everything. Roy restarts again but spends the following 15 attempts letting the man with the machete murder him because he believes that there is no use in trying because everyone would perish. After some time, he snaps out of his melancholy and makes the decision to spend his last moments with Joe. He takes him to the arcade where they interact and bond over a variety of topics and pastimes, spending time together as a father and son for the first time. Joe always nods off right before the end of the world. During their conversation, Roy and Joe note that Joe had received a voicemail from his mother earlier in the day. This indicates that Gemma will be awake when Roy awakens. When he arrives at Dino, he realizes that there are still at least 14 minutes until Gemma is slain. He now has a plan of action. Roy's next effort ends in success when he kills the man wielding a machete, hops on board the helicopter, expels the gunman, and commands the pilot to fly to Dino. He gets rid of the guards, and when he anticipates that the entire group of assassins would arrive at the door, he grabs a machine gun and shoots them all. He murders Brett and Venter after entering the main room. Gemma discovers that the Osiris Spindle functions as she had anticipated. Roy recounts all the times he has passed away and used his days to be with Joe. Even though Gemma is unsure of what will happen, he is prepared to enter the device. Before going in there, he gives her one last reassuring glance. On May 9th, Roy awakens once more with the time loop broken. He grinned, knowing what he had to accomplish but being careful not to perish in the process. And that is the end of this movie. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for daily updates of movie recaps like this. Comment what movie you want next. Thanks for watching.